Hello, I'm Alasan Sobine, presenting on behalf of Group 9 on the topic Introduction to Motivation. By the end of our discussion, we should be able to, or we should underscore the definition and understand motivation from the point of view of sales. We should also be able to know the types of motivation. Also, we should be able to determine the relevance of motivation to both organization and the salesman. We should also be able to identify some theories of motivation. I think it will also be beneficial for us to be convinced of the forms of motivation or the forms that motivation takes. And finally, we should appreciate the impact of motivation in the business competitive world. What at all is motivation, or what comes to mind when we speak of motivation? It can't be done better if we actually don't cite or we don't make reference to scholars' definition. And we have a definition coming from Badu 2005, which says that motivation is a human psychological characteristics that are to a person's degree of commitment. And by that, he means to say that it is the management process of influencing employees' behavior. We also have another coming from Carol L. and then Matthew Cutero, 2009. They hold the view that motivation is dependent on three psychological processes, and by that they refer to arousal, direction, and intensity. And as such, they hold that motivation is an inward or intrinsic phenomenon that drives a person to do more or continue to do what he or she does. From this, we can conclude by saying that motivation is any stimuli that influences a salesperson to give out more or to give out his best towards attainment of his goals or organizational goals. Types of motivation. Generally, motivation comes in different forms as we see in different platforms, but we can zero it down to two major types, and that is the intrinsic and that of the extrinsic. And by intrinsic motivation, we're talking about motivational factors that are actually driven or that are stimulated by inner world feeling. For instance, a salesperson who just has the desire to sell. Okay, that person, no matter the rejections, will still continue to do selling because he has that desire. Or a salesperson who has the desire to learn more, even though he will meet people that will turn him down, but he will still have the desire to sell because he wants to actually learn more about selling. We also talk about extrinsic motivation, and by this we mean motivational factors that are what? External in nature, but then trigger the innermost feeling of the salesperson to actually do more. For instance, we talk about the sales function of selling, which moves a salesperson to sell more. We also talk about a salesperson who also wants to gain recognition in society, or salespeople who wants to be recognized in society, and by that they sell more of a company's product and other, or in hope that in future they will be promoted to higher positions. Okay, we move further to importance of motivation, and by this or on this topic we'll be talking about the importance of motivation from the perspective of the salesman or to the salesman, and that of the importance of motivation to the organization. Importance of motivation to the salesman includes it helps the salesman in achievement of personal goals, and by that we say or we mean that the salesman actually attains his goals when he is more motivated. A salesperson who anticipates to actually attain or drive a goal will end up, or in the process, most especially selling. It is so frustrating that the salesperson can give up his spirit. But when this salesperson is driven by a motivational factor, probably the returns he might get out of selling, he will also persevere to attain the goal of selling. Also, we talk of what? Sales being what? being an aid to a salesperson's what? Development. Yes, and by that we mean that a salesperson who wants to become what? A better sales manager in the future, or a salesperson who wants to move towards his current position and attain higher, more selling opportunities in the future, will persevere to sell more through what? Motivational functions, or motivational what? Stimulus. Yes, the importance of motivation to the organization. One is that it actually helps the organization to attain more profit. And by that, mean organizations actually motivate their sales force in order for them to sell more of their products, so that they can attain more of what? The returns, and what? Actually make profit. It also helps the organization to what? To grow. The more salesperson sell and the organization makes returns, they anticipate that in the future they should expand and what? And then attain more what? Profit. So one of the importance of motivation to an organization what? Is growth, in the sense that the salesperson actually goes to expand profitability, and that profitability actually metamorphoses into what? Expansion, helping the organization to grow. Yes, we also speak of some theories of motivation, and few we have here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Herzberg 2 theory factor, then equity theory, and then acquired needs theory. Though we have 4 here, we are going to briefly explain 2. And on that, we speak of the acquired needs theory, which is of the view that a salesperson will be motivated or will be moved to do more or to sell more if and only if the salesperson attain goals that he has set for himself. And once he reaches the goal he has set for himself, he feels motivated to do more, or what? To actually take new or even higher and difficult tasks ahead of him. And again, we also look at what? The Herzberg's 2-factor theory, which also is of the view that a sales manager should focus on the loopholes or the lapses of what? His salespersons. And what do we mean by this? We mean a sales manager should be concerned about the needs or what the salesperson actually lack. Because one way of motivating a salesperson is to take into consideration the right type of motivation. If you don't apply the right motivation, even though you might have thought that you have actually undertaken motivation, but in the end you will yield no results. So the salesperson should look for the needs. What the sales manager should look for the needs or what the salesperson actually lacks, and try to provide that in the form or in the aim to motivate the salesperson to actually give out his best. Then we speak of forms of motivation, and by forms of motivation we talk of financial and non-financial. And by financial motivation we refer to motivational factors that are financial in nature, or that involves finance, that actually stimulates the salesperson's interest to sell. And examples there, we can talk of salaries, we can talk of wages, we can talk of bonuses, among others. And non-financial, by that we mean motivational factors that come to the salesperson, but not in the form of finance or not in the form of cash. We can speak of gifts, then promotions, among others. Then finally, we speak of influence of motivation in the business competitive world. And by that, we say motivation is a game changer in today's commercial business entities. The growth, sales, goals, attainment, and going concern of commercial businesses depend largely on salespeople. As such, it is important for employers to identify the right motivation for salesmen in order to stimulate their productivity beyond competitor sales units. Leading organizations across the globe in contemporary time have motivation as a powerful influence tool in attaining organizational mission. And by this, we mean that leading organizations in the world use motivation as a powerful tool to actually overpower their rivals. Yes, by what? Empowering most of their salespersons to give out their best. Thank you so much.